This episode brought to you by Cafe Imports, Minneapolis-based importers of fine specialty green coffees. Independently owned and operated since 1993, Cafe Imports has been dedicated to decreasing its impact on the earth through renewable energy, carbon neutrality, and by supporting conservational efforts in places where quality coffee is grown and also where quality coffee is consumed. Where does your coffee come from?
And by the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation. As a nonprofit, we rely on support from listeners like you. If you like what you hear, please consider a donation. To learn more and make a gift, visit us at www.gosuperior.org.
Welcome to the Lake Superior Podcast. I'm Walt Lindala.
And I'm Frida Waara. We are made stronger by story, and there's no better source than the continent's largest body of fresh water, Lake Superior.
So join us as we highlight the 5 national parks that ring this greatest of the Great Lakes, meet the people, tour the places, and learn about the projects that make these parks and body of water so remarkable.
This podcast made possible with the support of the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation and Media Brew Communications.
I'm Walt Lindala.
And I'm Frida Waara.
Welcome once again to the Lake Superior Podcast. Today, Frida, checking in with someone that is kind of a kindred spirit to us on the shore of the Big Lake over in Grand Marais, Minnesota.
You know, I wish we could have coffee with her. You know, you got a couple of fins. Like, I know, Walt, that you also like other beverages.
Yes, but coffee is always good.
Oh, man. I mean, I think, isn't that what Finns have running in their veins anyway? So, you know, that's how we get things done.
Yes.
But you gotta love a woman that has her own coffee shop. And Grand Marais, well, wait, take a step back. Grand Marais, Michigan, it is just the most wonderful, wonderful town on Lake Superior.
Right.
I love it. And kayaking there, oh man. But when you go up that North Shore, so you go up a couple hours north of Duluth, and there is a place that I don't know what it was, but when God was throwing out all those great little communities around Lake Superior, I think he stayed a couple days longer.
And Grand Marais, Minnesota, of course, there is sometimes some confusion because they're also on Lake Superior, but they are in Minnesota. And we'll talk a little bit about what goes on in Grand Marais, Minnesota, because the owner and operator of Java Moose, Sarah Jorgensen-Halberg, joins us here on the podcast. Hello, welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Greetings from Minnesota.
Really cool to have you here with us today. Tell us a little bit about Grand Marais, Minnesota. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So like Frida said, we're about 2 hours north of Duluth and about a half an hour south of Canada, the Canadian border, right along Lake Superior. And Grand Marais is about 1,300 full-time residents. But in the summer, of course, we explode to about 50,000. And it is an old fishing village that is its origins, and then was a logging hub for many, many years. It was a working harbor, and now it is a place that is beautiful and accessible. You can walk right along the lake. You can throw rocks to your heart's content. And our coffee shop is located just right off the road there.
I love that. You know, to have a cup of coffee, watch the sunrise, or just watch the sun all day in Grand Marais. But you have to tell us, Sarah, because everybody can feel it just in your voice already, that you are just this ray of sunshine. But how is it that you became Grand Marais' daily meteorologist?
Oh, yes. Well, strangely enough, I've been doing this for about 4 years, where I share the weather daily on our Instagram and our Facebook page. And it actually happened as crazily. We had wildfires going. And the concern was, what is the air quality? How close are the fires to town? A lot of people were concerned. Grand Marais holds a very special place in a lot of hearts. And so I just sort of took it upon myself, because the Forest Service was busy fighting the fires, so, doing what they needed to be doing. I sort of just took it upon myself to say, yes, it is smoky in town. Here is the smoke levels, or nope, we're doing just great, and just sort of as information to just share, what was really going on. And then it just kind of turned into, well, I'll do it this week, and then I'll do it next week, and now I do it every day or almost every day. And while not officially a meteorologist, my degrees are in other areas. I love the weather. And I think as Minnesotans and as people of the upper Midwest, it is in our hearts and in our blood to care about the weather. And living so close to the lake, we all know how quickly that can change.
Yeah.
And so just being able to give you that information in the morning, I can tell you, well, right now it's sunny and warm, or just whatever it is. Maybe we have a snowstorm, or just to kind of share the weather, and just something like just kind of common ground.
Can you tell me a little bit? Are you born and raised in Grand Marais? Are you a transplant? What's your history with the community?
Yes. So as a child, my family and I moved here. My dad was a state of Minnesota employee. So
Okay.
he was transferred here when we were kids. And we have lived on the same ridge, right on the lake, on the same ridge, for the better part of 35 years. And so while not born, I was raised along the shore, and went to college, met my husband, and convinced him that he should also love the shore as much as I do.
Was that a hard sell?
I think that, well, he came from the Twin Cities metro area, and I think coming to a very small town that your wife grew up in, you're sort of an outsider for a little bit, right? I think that we're all always a little hesitant to welcome new people, I think, as for residents. But no, it did not take him long to fit right in, and he's an integral part of the community, and calls this home after many years. And we have children. We've raised our children here, and so I think that all helps to become part of a community.
Now with these weather forecasts, these weather reports that you do, you say they've kind of caught on and you've got people checking them out. Have you ever sort of had any feedback, or like maybe where people are checking in to see what's happening in Grand Marais, Minnesota?
Absolutely. I get a lot of really positive feedback, actually. We have a very loyal following. Of course, most of our visitors come from the Twin Cities metro area or Wisconsin, the Midwest. But we do have visitors from all over the world, actually, quite a few in Europe and a couple in Australia. And so they check in, they send messages, they'll let me know what it's sort of doing in their neck of the woods. If we've had a big snowstorm, they'll like to share maybe that it's sunny and warm in Texas or something. So, it's a really engaging group, and I love it. I think that we all just want to be meteorologists at heart.
That's true.
Oh, boy. And, the other thing with all of these folks that are coming to Grand Marais, they're probably asking you, so, Sarah, is this the same lake that I saw in Duluth and in Two Harbors? And, the idea that this is just a lake, it feels like an ocean.
We do get that a lot. And I think with with social media and with the internet, I think some of that has changed slightly, that people are a little more aware of geography, sort of. But a lot of people, if you're traveling, they think, well, are you from Canada? Like, exactly where are you from? Where is
right.
this place, Grand Marais? And so, yes, it is hard to grasp the idea that you can't see across this lake, especially in Grand Marais. As you get closer down to Two Harbors, Duluth, of course, you can see the other side there, see the Bayfield Peninsula. But here in Grand Marais, we actually look due south. So I'm looking at Ironwood, Michigan.
Okay. Yeah.
As crazy as it is, I'm looking directly at Ironwood, Michigan right now. And so it's kind of fun in the winter because I can see all of the snow squalls building on the lake, and I get so jealous of all of that lake effect snow that is dumping over in the UP.
Well,
Yeah,
someone that
no,
lives
I
here,
know,
I don't know about always being necessarily being something to be jealous of. But let me ask you this now. You talk about this in a way that this, obviously, the lake, I mean, you're talking about Ironwood, where we are, Frida and I are, is about 3 hours to the east of Ironwood, Michigan, and then 3 hours to the east of Marquette, Michigan. You're in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and it's still all on the shore of the same lake, and so are you. Now, how does this all with Lake Superior? What is it about Lake Superior that fills you up, as someone that lives in that community that does these things with the weather reports? Can you describe what it's like or what it is about Lake Superior that fills your life?
Well, I think that part of it is every single day is different.
Yes.
Every day you look out there, and I have the privilege and the opportunity to live on the lake. And so for me, every morning I can look out whether I'm at our shop that looks out at the lake or in my home, and I can see the sunrise, and I see the sun all day, and I get to experience that sunset. And so to have that and to be able to appreciate the vastness and also just the unbelievable beauty and how she's just always changing. When it freezes over, that is not, for me, that's not a great feeling, even though it's so good for the ecology. I don't always love when the lake freezes over, which is actually pretty rare for us here. But I love that change. And I love to look out and say, oh, we've got 3-footers today. Oh, wow, the lake is really rocking, and we've got 8-footers, or to see the boats hugging the shore this time of year. So I think that it becomes such a part of you that you can't help but take that moment and notice what the lake is doing that day. Look how she sparkles or is all churned up, and just that difference on a daily basis. Or even, today, this morning was beautiful, calm, sunny. And then now we're pretty choppy and it's cool, much cooler out. And so you can just experience the change in such a way that I think if you lived elsewhere, you're not experiencing that viscerally.
We're talking with Sarah Jorgensen-Halberg, who is from Grand Marais, Minnesota, here on the Lake Superior podcast, talking about the big lake. She owns and operates Java Moose in Grand Marais, Minnesota. You mentioned at the top of the podcast, Sarah, that, it's about 1,300 or so people that expands to up to 50,000 people in the summer and in the tourism season. Tell us about the area where you are. What do you like to do, and how does that change when these visitors come around?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, we're right on the cusp of the visitors coming, which is wonderful. I love the ebb and flow of the tourism industry. I love the energy that our visitors bring. They are waiting all year to come back, or maybe experience Grand Marais or experience the shore for the first time. And they've only seen photos or video. Maybe they've followed along on my social media, and they finally get here. And they're so happy. They're so happy. And how can you not just take that energy and run with it? And so I love the first-time visitor. I love the annual visitor, and I love the visitor that hasn't been back in 30 years and is just seeing it fresh again. So I love that. That being said, that is draining because we pour ourselves out. I see that when you come into our shop, this is an extension of my home, so I'm hosting you. And my whole family works in the shop, and so it truly is an extension of us and of our home. And by the end of the season, which is end of October-ish for us, once the leaves go off the trees, we're ready for a break. And it's okay to admit that, to say, I'm tired and I'm ready for it to quiet down a bit. And then it's winter, and that is my favorite season, where I just cross-country ski. I love winter. I cross-country ski a lot. I run in the winter. I get out and I hike a lot. Part of it is probably because it's quieter. I love the sunshine of the winter. We have a lot of sun over here. And just being outside and you feel so alive when your nostrils are freezing together.
I'm going to put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah, okay. Now, somebody's listening to this podcast somewhere on the other side of the planet that doesn't even really know what we're talking about when that happens. Now, if they were to come to see you in Grand Marais, and as you say, the big lake and the big shore and the opportunity to do this, what are some of the things that you tell them that they should not miss out on if they come to visit?
Absolutely. So I encourage them to, if they have accessibility, that is always a concern, to go out to the lighthouse. Take that walk out to the lighthouse. The Army Corps of Engineers just reinforced the guide wire, so it is safer to go out there. No place is ever fully safe. But go out to the lighthouse, experience Grand Marais from that vantage point, because I think being able to look up at the hillside and then look out at the lake and you see nothing but vast blue water and open sky, and to see the Sawtooth Mountains, and then to turn around and to see that hillside is just really spectacular, especially in the fall or early spring green, when we have that brilliant green color that are on the birch and the aspen. So spectacular. So I always recommend that. I also recommend a drive up to Grand Portage, which is our Native American reservation here, and that's right on the Canadian border. And at the state park, at the Grand Portage State Park, is the Pigeon River High Falls. That is the highest waterfall in Minnesota. And then you're at the Canadian border. And I think for a lot of people, maybe they'll never have a chance to travel internationally and to be able to say, I threw a rock into Canada. I threw a rock into the river, and that was the Canadian shore. And so I think that's really special, and also to take that moment to appreciate visiting Native American lands. As we all know, we're all on Native land, but to really take that moment and experience that, and to visit the fort there as well is just, it's powerful, and I think it's just important to take that pause. And then, of course, grab a cup of coffee with us. I mean, that would be,
of course,
that would be a given. No, but I think just as taking that moment to appreciate, take that deep breath. So often in our lives, we are running from point A to point B, and we don't get the chance to take the time. And I think Grand Marais and Lake Superior, it almost forces you to take that moment, right? Because it is so vast and powerful that you just kind of stop for a moment, and you're inspired, and you can't help but just appreciate it.
Sarah, I so appreciate that you are frontline with all of those visitors. Is there also something that you warn them not to do?
Well, there's a lot of things, because I like to have rules. At the end of the day, I want everyone to be safe, right? Because we are in the wilderness. We are 2 hours from major medical care. That might involve an ambulance or a helicopter ride or a fixed-wing plane. So first and foremost, to appreciate the wilderness and the wildness that is our area, and then to really appreciate the power of Lake Superior. As we know, that lake is about 34 degrees year-round, and hypothermia sets in very quickly. We do not have Coast Guard here. The Coast Guard has pulled out of the area. Duluth is the closest, or really probably you guys if we're taking a plane. So just to really be careful and respectful of the lake. If it's really rocking and rolling, to give it space. Don't go near the shore. And there's a lot of currents, especially in our area. So just to always be really careful of those currents, and just to know, just be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of your footing, and then just respect the area.
Over the years of us doing this podcast, Frida and I have talked to a lot of people like yourself in various communities around Lake Superior, and they talk about these types of things with the respect for the lake, and those of us that are familiar with it understand that. But one thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you're absolutely the same, is that people like yourself that have that knowledge and experience are willing to share it, to get that word out, to say, hey, look, it may look calm right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like that even in a couple of hours. How important is that for you to communicate that to those who are visiting maybe the first time or they haven't been there in a long time?
I think it's just imperative that we continue to share that information. A lot of people like to jump off the lighthouse, like the break wall of the lighthouse, and the currents there are not safe. And so I've never allowed my own children to jump off the lighthouse. So that is just a hard and fast rule that I have. And I share that regularly when I have visitors or even, people in the community. They're like, oh, we're going to jump off the lighthouse. I just really wish you wouldn't, is what I say. Like, of course you are your own person and you can make those decisions, but it's not as safe as it looks. Especially, I think we get lulled into the beauty of it, and it's a sunny, warm day, and so you're going to go jump off there, but it's still only 34 degrees, and currents can pull you out so quickly. And so it really is. And we look at the lighthouse, so I can see it. I can see the people jumping off it. I can see them enjoying themselves. But I'm so nervous every single time. So I probably tend to be like overcautious about the safety of the lake and the rivers and everything that we have here. But it's imperative. It's imperative to be as safe as we possibly can be.
Absolutely. And you and I both know people that have lost their life to the lake, and they were good swimmers. They understood the lake. You just always have to have that respect and just be thinking about another day.
And I think it also bears mentioning at this point that we've talked a lot about Lake Superior this way, Frida and Sarah, that, it makes it sound like it's this really scary thing. It is not a scary thing. It is just a power and a force to be respected, and you need to treat it that way. And I think that that's one thing we try to leave with folks when they listen to find out more about Lake Superior. We are talking today on the Lake Superior podcast with Sarah Jorgensen-Halberg. She is the owner and operator of Java Moose in Grand Marais, Minnesota. Sarah, there was a question that Frida put on this list of questions that I got to ask. How are the bugs in the summer, and what do you use to handle those?
I totally giggled at that question. I did. I was like, the bugs are horrible. Of course they are.
Yes, of course.
So we have, and I don't know if you guys have these in Marquette. So, of course, we have mosquitoes, right? We live in a bog.
Yep.
However, we have what we call black flies.
Oh, yeah.
And do you have black flies? And they take like chunks out of you and leave. Oh, my God.
They carry us away if we're not careful.
Yep.
Right. And so they hatch, early June-ish. But for us, they're gone by about the second to third week of July. But there is not a spray that you can put on that will keep them completely away, at least that we have not found, unless you're putting on, chemicals that are probably unsafe for human and mammal. So, bug nets are kind of a best friend. I mean, you look goofy, but so do you and all of your friends. So if you put on the bug net and your husband puts on the bug net, then you're just bug net nerds together. So I'm a full believer in the bug net or the bug suit or, wear the hat. We spray everything on ourselves, and I still am like, well, no, they're still finding me. But it's part of it is like, it's short-lived. August is coming because pretty much the bugs are gone in August. You just kind of deal with it. But I will tell you, I hate the bugs, and that's probably why winter is my favorite season.
There you go. Makes sense.
Sarah is a sister from another mother. I can feel this.
I know.
But you know what? As she's telling me about the bug nets, one of the craziest things, because I love to go on a kayak camping trip, and you've got your head net on all the time. You've got to remember that you need to buy them with that little zipper so that you can drink your coffee and not, try.
You do.
I'm sure, Sarah, you know what that's like if you forget.
It is, or if you lift it up for just a second, they find you, and you just cannot. Oh man, we have so many first-time visitors who come up here that have never been bitten, and I don't react anymore really to a black fly bite because I've been bitten so many times. I do believe you get used to it. So we'll have people that will have to go to the emergency room because they think they're having an allergic reaction, and they sort of are. But the bugs have just found them. Or small children. I just feel so badly for the small children.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you just you cover up. Oh, don't wear black clothing. So the black flies are attracted to dark clothing.
Yep.
So wear the light-colored clothing, wear the hat. I put dryer sheets under my hat. I don't know if it helps, but it makes me feel like it does.
Absolutely.
So now that we've done this wonderful job of selling the Lake Superior experience as ice cold, dangerous, and bug infested, it does bear mentioning that Grand Marais, Minnesota is a base camp for Boundary Waters, for the Grand Portage National Monument. So let's talk a little bit for a few moments, as you as a business owner and someone who has spent many years in Grand Marais, how important is tourism to the local economy, especially with that jump you talk about of people coming in, that influx of visitors during the travel season? How important is it?
We would not survive without it. To be completely honest and blunt, we need the visitors. Our economy along the North Shore primarily is based on tourism. The number is like 95% is based on tourism. We still have a little bit of logging, but it is tourism. So it is the visitors. And they are traveling to Isle Royale National Park. They are traveling to Grand Portage National Monument. They're going to the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, the Superior National Forest. And so vital for us to have our visitors. And they're wonderful people. And for the most part, respect the land and respect the area and want to make a difference. They want to be a part of our community in some way. So they're very supportive of our local businesses, resorts and campgrounds and things as well. And truly, we couldn't do it without every single visitor that comes to visit. It's not just, well, I'll take the ones that are spending the most money or making the biggest impact. No, it's every single person, because then they become stewards of the land because they had a special moment here. And then it becomes a part of them. So we couldn't survive without every single visitor that's coming from Canada or coming up the shore. And we're grateful for them. We get tired, of course, but
Sure.
We're very, very grateful.
So I'm curious, here in our immediate area with Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, in particular during the COVID era of social isolation and getting away from places and stuff like that, there was a real spike in attendance over that COVID time that has carried over, that people now keep coming. How did things trend in Grand Marais when we were in that era?
Very similar, very similar. I think primarily it was going into the Boundary Waters, and that was a little contentious. Not everyone fully respected or understood what the Boundary Waters was, that you're truly in the wilderness. So there was a little bit of a learning curve there. And I think for a lot of things, we were just learning, right, about the world at that point. And that has carried over. Those numbers are probably hard to completely meet every year, as just the world kind of opened back up and people got busy again. But it attracted so many people, especially within the Midwest, to sort of explore their own backyards. And that has really been a boon for us. When they had to close the Boundary Waters for fires, 2021, and so for 2 weeks in August, the Boundary Waters was closed. And you don't necessarily always realize the impact in which that place makes, but it was like a ghost town. And it was very strange to not have that super busy and then to also understand and realize the impact that the Boundary Waters has on your daily business.
So, okay, now I got to ask you this. Since we're talking about, this is the time of year where you're going to be doing a lot of reporting, you're going to be checking on the weather, and you're going to be checking on them, putting those out there. How do people get these reports? How do they find out more about you and what you do over at Java Moose in Grand Marais, Minnesota?
Yep, so every day, or most every day, I post a daily video on Instagram and on Facebook, and that is Java Moose Grand Marais. And so Marais, just for spelling purposes. So every day I post on there. And then we also have a website where you can sign up for our newsletter, and that is javamoosgrandmarais.com. I try to do a monthly newsletter. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less.
Well, it gets busy. It gets busy, so yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Depending on, what pretty, and it's a lot of like photos. I share, the beauty of the area in a pretty positive way, but we also talk about serious topics as well, and try to give just a snapshot of what it is truly like to live along the shore.
Bless you for that. Bless you for that. And also, I'm just imagining, because I have not done a long trip into the Boundary Waters, but I have done some long trips at Isle Royale, and to come back, get off the boat, go to Java Moose, and just be able to share your story. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that I won't smell like a campfire, or I won't whatever else, but sometimes it's kind of rough out there if the water's a little chilly to take a bath. But just to be in your company, Sarah, because I know whatever I would bring back from Grand Portage, the Boundary Waters, Superior National Forest, Isle Royale, I just have a feeling sitting in your coffee shop, it's going to be listened to.
Yeah, I think so. And we want to hear your stories. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it's all about humanity. And we can have various beliefs and various feelings, but at the end of the day, at the root of it is that we're humans and we want those connections. And we're so fortunate because we have the coffee shop, so we have a place for people to share their stories, whether it's with me or with each other. It's a really wonderful group that gathers here, throughout the day, and our locals want to hear from our visitors, and vice versa. I have locals that sit in like, oh, gosh, what lake did you go to, and what kind of fish did you catch? And they're engaged as well. And I think that most of our visitors would find Grand Marais and the greater Cook County area to be very welcoming and very accommodating. We sure hope to be so, right? Like, you just want to be seen as being very welcoming, because at the end of the day, we are welcoming you into our home.
Love it. One last question, Sarah. Is there a cribbage board at Java Moose?
I have two, but I can't play with you because I cannot focus.
All right, I'm coming over.
I cannot. My husband and my sister have tried to teach me to play cribbage for years, and I'm a lost cause.
Oh, well.
So I'll sit there with you, and I'll visit, but I cannot keep track of like the 15 twos, 15 fours. I don't care.
You just keep us. Just keep us in coffee. We'll be fine. All right.
Oh,
okay, great. Okay, that sounds perfect.
Yeah. Sarah Jorgensen-Halberg joining us here this on the podcast this time around. Grand Marais, Minnesota, Java Moose owner and operator. Sarah, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. You've brought a lot of energy to the table. Obviously, you're in coffee, so I get that. But it's been good having you on here today to talk about what things go on the big lake in your neck of the woods. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Sarah Jorgensen-Halberg. She is the owner-operator of Java Moose in Grand Marais, Minnesota. And Frida, I was watching your face through this entire interview, and you said a moment ago, you said something like, sisters from it's just sisters of the big lake. And lots of excitement, lots of energy, a lot of enjoyment, but a lot of the same things you have talked about, I have talked about, we've experienced about. I was joking earlier in the podcast about, like now that we've sold it as an ice cold bug infested thing, but it is part of Lake Superior. This is part of it. But the fact that she's in Grand Marais, Minnesota, we are in Marquette, Michigan. You can go to the Sioux, Canada, even you can take a look over. You look all over there. It's the same lake. There's really a lot of things that come with it, but she's really encapsulated it pretty well in this chat.
I can see so much of what she is, just this glow for Grand Marais, but also understands the levels of just what it is to be in a small community and to face some of those, the weather elements, the small communities, tourism.
The jump in tourist numbers. I mean,
yes.
We have that to a certain extent in our area, but we don't see a 1,300 town go to 50,000.
Yep.
or an area. That's a massive jump. So if you're going to make the trip, if you're listening to this and you say, I want to go to Lake Superior, I want to go to Grand Marais, Minnesota, plan ahead and plan accordingly because it sounds like it's a busy time of year, or come in the off season because there aren't any bugs.
And one of the things that we didn't get a chance to touch on too much there is it is such an art community. So you've got the North House Folk School and the artists that gather. And a lot of those art events happen after the real crush of the folks that are coming to camp.
Mm-hmm.
So, September, October, wonderful times to visit Grand Marais.
Always good to talk with some of our friends along the big lake. That again, Sarah Jorgensen-Halberg, who is the owner-operator of Java Moose in Grand Marais, Minnesota. It's pretty much going to do it for us on this episode of the Lake Superior podcast. But if there are some ideas that you'd like to hear us talk about, find us through the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation, and they'll get the message to us, and we'll go looking into it. But for now, I'm Walt Lindala.
And I'm Frida Waara. Thanks for listening. The National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation, NPLSF, is the only official nonprofit 501c3 fundraising partner of the National Park Service for all 5 U.S. national park sites on Lake Superior.
To learn more about NPLSF projects and programs, you can visit the website at nplsf.org or friend them on Facebook.
I'm Frida Waara.
And I'm Walt Lindala. Thanks for listening to the Lake Superior podcast.
This podcast made possible with the support of the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation and Media Brew Communications.
This episode brought to you by Cafe Imports, Minneapolis-based importers of fine specialty green coffees. Independently owned and operated since 1993, Cafe Imports has been dedicated to decreasing its impact on the earth through renewable energy, carbon neutrality, and by supporting conservational efforts in places where quality coffee is grown and also where quality coffee is consumed. Where does your coffee come from?
And by the National Parks of Lake Superior Foundation. As a nonprofit, we rely on support from listeners like you. If you like what you hear, please consider a donation. To learn more and make a gift, visit us at www.gosuperior.org.